The garden shears trembled in Richard Whitmore's hands as he watched through the kitchen window. His new wife, Vanessa, stood beside the counter, her voice sharp, her tone colder than the marble beneath her hands. "You can't even set a table right?" she said, glaring down at the little girl beside her. "How many times do I have to tell you?" Lily's small hands froze on the plate she was holding. She looked up, eyes wide, then down again. "I'm sorry, ma'am." "Sorry doesn't fix careless," Vanessa snapped. "Do it again," Richard's breath caught. He wanted to rush in, to hold his daughter, to tell her she'd done nothing wrong. But he couldn't, not yet. Because at this moment, in his own mansion, he was not Richard Whitmore, billionaire and father. He was Robert, the gardener. He had been living this lie for 2 long weeks. 2 weeks pretending to be a stranger in the home he'd built for his children. 2 weeks since he'd told Vanessa he was leaving for a business trip, when in truth, he never left, all because of one terrifying suspicion, that the woman he'd married was hiding something cruel. The first time he noticed the change, it had been small. Lily, who once ran to greet him every evening, had started avoiding his hugs. Ethan, his 2-year-old, no longer laughed when she entered the room. And once, when Richard asked his daughter why she seemed so quiet, she whispered, "Because when Daddy's gone, the rules are different." That sentence haunted him. So he made a decision no one could have expected. He would disappear, pretend to be gone on business, and return in disguise to see what truly happened when he wasn't around. The plan was reckless, even foolish. His lawyer had called it insane, but Richard's mind was already made up. He would rather lose everything than lose his children to fear. Now, through the glass, he saw the truth unfolding before his eyes. Vanessa turned away from Lily, her expression softening instantly as her phone rang. "Darling," she said cheerfully into the receiver. "Of course, everything's fine here." Richard realized she was talking to him, or rather, to the actor he'd hired to answer calls as Richard Whitmore. The act was working. Vanessa had no idea her husband was standing just outside, dirt on his hands, pretending to trim the roses he'd planted years ago. Behind her, 6-year-old Lily rubbed her arm quietly. Her little brother Ethan sat on the floor beside his toys, watching, silent. The laughter that used to fill the house was gone. Richard looked at them and felt the ground shift beneath him. Every instinct told him to walk away from this disguise, to end the charade. But the truth wasn't clear yet. He needed proof that would stand when words alone wouldn't. That morning Sophia, the maid, entered the kitchen carrying a tray. She was new, kind eyes, calm voice. "Breakfast is ready, ma'am," she said politely. "Finally," Vanessa replied, checking her reflection in the oven glass. Then she turned sharply toward the garden window. Her gaze landed on Richard. "You," she called. "Gardener, don't just stand there. These hedges look uneven." "I'll fix them right away, ma'am," he said quietly, lowering his head. Vanessa studied him for a moment. "People like you should learn to do things properly. I expect this place to look perfect." "Yes, ma'am." She turned and left the room. Sophia watched her go, then looked at the man outside. Her eyes softened. She reached for a glass of water and quietly stepped out the door. "You've been working since morning," she said, handing it to him. "You should drink something." "Thank you," Richard replied, surprised. Most people don't notice the gardener. "I was raised to notice kindness," she said softly. Or the lack of it. Richard studied her face. There was something honest in her tone, something rare in this house. He nodded. "The children seem fond of you." "They're good kids," she said, "just—" "Quiet." That word again. "Quiet." Richard's chest tightened. "Do they seem afraid?" he asked carefully. Sophia hesitated. "Sometimes people act differently when the husband isn't home," she said slowly. "Maybe I'm wrong. But something here doesn't feel right." Richard swallowed hard. "Thank you," he said. "For looking after them," she smiled faintly. "They deserve someone to." When she went back inside, Richard turned toward the roses and exhaled shakily. His instincts had been right. Something dark was happening here. But now, he wasn't alone in seeing it. Later that day, he saw Lily step outside, holding Ethan's hand. She smiled shyly at him. "Hello, sir." "Good morning," he said gently. "Are you the new gardener?" "That's right," he said. "My name's Robert." "I liked Mr. Miguel," she said softly. "He used to give us flowers." "I'll grow some just for you," he said. Her eyes lit up for a second, the first real spark of happiness he'd seen in weeks. When she went back inside, Richard knelt by the flower bed, his hands trembling. He realized that behind all the deception and disguise, he was no longer acting like a gardener. He was becoming one, tending a garden that had withered under cruelty and fear. As dusk fell, Vanessa passed him again on her way to the car. "Don't forget," she said sharply. "I want the hedges perfect by morning." "Yes, ma'am," he replied. She paused, then gave a thin smile. "You look familiar," she said quietly. Richard's heart froze. "I get that a lot," he murmured. She said, and walked away. He watched her car disappear down the driveway, then turned back to the garden. The night air smelled of earth and roses. He whispered to himself, "I thought I was pretending to be a gardener, but maybe I'm the one being watched." Morning sunlight crept through the long windows of the Whitmore mansion. The house looked calm, too calm. Richard had barely slept. All night he replayed the same image in his head. Vanessa's eyes narrowing when she said, "You look familiar." He needed to be careful now. One wrong word, and everything would collapse. As he clipped the roses, he heard soft footsteps behind him. "Mr. Robert," a small voice said. He turned. Lily stood there, holding a tiny purple flower. "For you," she said shyly. "You make the garden look happy again." Richard smiled, hiding the pain in his chest. "Thank you, Miss Lily. You have a good heart." Before she could reply, Sophia called from the kitchen door. "Lily, breakfast's ready." The little girl waved and ran inside. Sophia lingered at the doorway, glancing around before stepping closer. "She's smiling again," she said quietly. "That's something," Richard nodded. "It's because of you. She trusts you." Sophia looked down. "Children always know when something's wrong, even if they can't say it." He hesitated. "Sophia, if something happens here, something that shouldn't, would you tell me?" She studied him for a moment, then said, "I already am telling you." Her words hit him harder than he expected. Inside, the clatter of dishes broke the moment. Vanessa's voice echoed faintly, sweet and practiced, like a melody rehearsed too many times. Sophia sighed. "She's been in a strange mood since this morning. Keeps checking her phone, walking in and out." Richard's jaw tightened, waiting for someone. "Maybe," Sophia said. "Or hiding something." Later that day, while trimming vines near the study window, Richard overheard a faint conversation. Vanessa's tone was sharp. "I don't care about the price. I just need it done before he comes back." There was a pause, then a low male voice replied, "Consider it handled." Richard froze. Before he could catch more, the call ended, and Vanessa's heels clicked toward the window. He bent quickly to his work. The window creaked open. "Gardener," she called. He looked up, calm. "Yes, ma'am?" "I want every rose in this garden removed tomorrow. I'm allergic." He blinked. "But these were planted." "I said remove them," she cut in sharply. "Every last one." Then she slammed the window shut. Richard stared at the flowers, the same roses he'd planted when his daughter was born. She wanted them gone. That evening, as he packed his tools, Sophia approached quietly. "She told me to fire you tomorrow," she whispered. He looked up, startled. "What?" "She said you're too nosy for a gardener." I tried to reason, but... She trailed off, Richard thought quickly. "Then tomorrow I'll be gone before she can ask why." Sophia frowned. "You're really leaving?" "No," he said. "Just moving closer to the truth." That night, he didn't go home. He waited behind the greenhouse until the lights inside went dark. At midnight, Vanessa's car headlights flashed across the driveway. She was leaving again. He followed at a distance on foot, staying in the shadows. She drove to a private villa by the lake, one Richard recognized instantly. It was one of his own properties, rarely used. Through the glass, he saw her meet a man in a gray suit. Their conversation was brief, but tense. He couldn't hear the words, but her gestures told a story, anger, impatience, and a quick exchange of envelopes. By the time he returned home, dawn was already coloring the sky. Sophia was waiting by the gate. "You've been gone all night," she said quietly. "What did you find?" He looked at her, exhausted. "Proof. Not enough to show anyone yet, but enough to know my children aren't safe." Sophia's face hardened. "Then we protect them." "Whatever it takes," Richard hesitated. "Why are you helping me?" She smiled faintly. "Because before I was a maid, I was a teacher, and I don't stand by when children are afraid." For the first time in weeks, Richard felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he wasn't fighting alone anymore. Inside the house, Vanessa poured herself a glass of wine, humming softly. Her phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. "He's still in the house." "You were right," she smiled, slowly, coldly. Out in the garden, the first petals of Richard's roses began to fall. He didn't know yet, but the woman he was hiding from already knew the truth. And by the next sunset, the secret of Robert the gardener would no longer be a secret at all. Morning arrived heavy with silence. The mansion looked calm from the outside, but inside something had shifted. Vanessa's voice was softer, sweeter, too sweet. She moved through the house, offering smiles that didn't reach her eyes. Richard sensed it immediately. Something in the air told him his disguise was no longer safe. As he trimmed the last of the roses, he noticed the kitchen curtains were open. Vanessa stood there watching him, her expression unreadable. Then she turned and disappeared deeper into the house. He exhaled slowly. Every second now mattered. Sophia approached quietly, a folded piece of paper in her hand. "Mr. Robert," she whispered. "You need to see this." He took it, frowning. Inside was a printed email. The letterhead was his company's. It read, "Transfer of guardianship requested. Lily and Ethan Whitmore." Signed, Vanessa Whitmore. Richard's heart stopped. Guardianship? She's trying to take the children legally? Sophia nodded. "It was sent yesterday morning. She wants it approved before you return from your trip." He gripped the paper, his voice shaking. "She's planning to cut me out completely." Sophia's voice dropped. "That's not all. She also ordered the security staff to install new cameras, only in the children's rooms." He looked at her sharply. "What?" She said. "It's for safety, but something's off." Before he could answer, the front door opened. Vanessa's heels echoed across the marble. "Robert!" she called. Richard straightened. "Yes, ma'am?" "Come inside. I need help moving something." Her tone was unusually calm. Too calm. He followed her in. The living room looked different, polished, staged. On the table sat a silver tray with tea. "Only 2 cups. Sit," she said, motioning to the chair across from her. Richard hesitated. "I'm fine standing." Her smile didn't falter. "Please, I insist." He sat down slowly. She poured the tea, her movements precise. "You've been here a while now, haven't you?" "What was it, 2 weeks?" "About that," he replied. "Funny," she said, leaning back. "You remind me of someone I once knew." Richard forced a small smile. "Maybe I just have one of those faces." "Oh, I doubt that," she said softly. "Because I saw you last night, near the lake." The world seemed to tilt. For a long second, neither spoke. Finally, she said, "You should have stayed gone, Richard." He froze. The sound of his name, his real name, filled the room like thunder. She leaned forward, eyes burning. "Do you think I wouldn't recognize my own husband? You may hide your face behind dirt and tools, but you can't hide the way you walk. Or the way you look at me." Richard's mind raced. The truth was out. "You were never supposed to find out this way," he said quietly. "But I had to know what was happening in this house." Vanessa laughed, cold and sharp. "So you spied on me? Pretended to be a gardener in your own home?" "I protected our children," he shot back. "From whatever you've turned into?" Her smile vanished. "You think anyone will believe you? You've been gone for weeks. Everyone thinks you left. By tomorrow the papers will say you abandoned them." Sophia, standing in the hallway unseen, heard everything. Her hands trembled around the tray she was holding. She took a step forward, then stopped. Something in Vanessa's words didn't make sense. "Why are you doing this?" Richard asked. "Was it the money? The inheritance?" Vanessa's eyes flickered. "You think too small, Richard. You never understood power. But you will." At that moment, Sophia stepped into the room. "That's enough," she said quietly. Vanessa turned, startled. "Excuse me." "I said that's enough," Sophia repeated, setting the tray down. "You've said too much already." Vanessa's lips curled. "And who do you think you are?" Sophia took a deep breath. "Someone who knows the truth about you." Vanessa froze. Richard looked at Sophia, confused. "What are you talking about?" Sophia reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded document, old yellowed paper. She placed it on the table between them. "This came with my employment file. I didn't know why until now." Vanessa's eyes widened slightly. Richard unfolded the document, and his breath caught. At the top, in faded ink, was a familiar name, Margaret Whitmore, his late first wife, and below it, infant birth record. Female child, name, Sophia. The room fell silent. Richard looked up slowly. You're my daughter?" Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know, not until I saw the file. I was adopted by another family. I took this job because I needed work, not knowing who you were." Vanessa's face drained of color. You're lying." Sophia looked at her. "No, you are." Richard's hand shook as he stood. "All this time, Sophia." She wiped her eyes. "I thought fate was cruel for bringing me here. But maybe it was mercy." Vanessa stepped back, voice trembling with fury. "This doesn't change anything. You're both trespassers in my home." "No," Richard said, voice calm but firm. "My home. Our home." Sophia moved closer to him, her voice steady now. "You won't take those children. Not anymore." For the first time, Vanessa's mask cracked, her hands clenched. "You think you can stop me?" Richard met her eyes. "I already have." He pulled out the small recorder hidden in his jacket pocket, blinking red. Every word she'd said was saved. Her face went pale. "You recorded everything," Richard said quietly, "including your confession." Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," he said, "but my children won't." She turned sharply and stormed out, her heels echoing through the hall. For a long moment, the only sound was the faint ticking of the clock. Sophia finally spoke. "So what happens now?" Richard looked toward the stairs where his children slept. "Now we start over," she smiled faintly. "You really didn't know, did you?" He shook his head, still stunned. "I didn't even know I had another daughter." Sophia looked at him softly. "Then maybe this time you can be the father you were meant to be." Outside, the morning wind brushed against the last few roses. The same flowers Vanessa had wanted gone, still standing, still blooming, and in that quiet garden for the first time in years, Richard felt like he was finally home. A week had passed since the storm inside the Whitmore mansion. The silence that once felt heavy now sounded peaceful. For the first time in months, laughter floated through the halls again. Lily chased Ethan across the living room while Sophia helped them set the breakfast table. Richard stood by the window, coffee in hand, watching the morning light fall across the garden. The roses, once on the verge of being destroyed, were in full bloom. He turned as Sophia entered. "You look tired," she said. "Maybe I am," he replied softly. "Tired, but lighter," she smiled. The board withdrew Vanessa's petition. The court acknowledged the recordings. "It's over," Richard nodded. "I still can't believe how close I came to losing everything." Sophia looked toward the children. "You didn't lose them. You just had to fight your way back." For a moment they stood together, quiet, listening to Lily's laughter. Then Sophia said, "There's something else. This came for you this morning." She handed him a sealed envelope, the handwriting elegant and familiar. Richard frowned and opened it. Inside was a short letter. "Richard, I'm leaving. Not because I have to, but because I should have never stayed. You'll tell the world I was cruel, and maybe I was. But love built on fear never lasts. Take care of the children. They were never my enemies." "Vanessa," Richard folded the paper slowly. "I thought I'd feel angry," he said. "But I just feel sorry for her." Sophia nodded. "Some people only learn peace after losing everything." He looked at her. "And some people help others find it again." She smiled faintly. "Maybe that's what daughters do." A soft breeze came through the open window, carrying the scent of roses. Lily ran up, holding a flower in her hand. "Daddy, can we plant a new one?" she asked. "Sophia says every garden needs a new beginning." He knelt, smiling. "Then that's exactly what we'll do." They walked outside together. Sophia handed Lily a small shovel, Ethan giggling beside her. Richard pressed his hand into the soil, feeling the earth cool against his skin. The same hands that once pretended to be a gardener were now exactly that, without lies, without masks. Sophia looked at him. "You know, when I first came here, I thought this place was broken beyond repair." He glanced up. "And now?" "Now," she said softly, "it finally feels alive." As the children planted the new rose, Richard took one last look at the mansion. It no longer felt like a prison of secrets. It felt like a home rebuilt on truth. Later that evening, he sat at his desk, writing a letter of his own. "To my children, one day you'll learn that strength isn't in power or wealth. It's in kindness, forgiveness, and the courage to start again. If you ever forget who you are, look to the garden. You'll find our story growing there. Your father." He sealed the envelope and placed it beside the window. Outside, the moon rose over the garden, lighting the petals with silver. Sophia stood at the doorway watching him. "Writing your last chapter?" she asked. He smiled. "Just the first of a better one." And for the first time in a long while, the Whitmore mansion slept without fear, only peace, laughter, and the quiet heartbeat of a family beginning again.